Welcome to That Guy Talks Movies. Let's talk a little bit of Bond. This week we had some Bond news about the director that's been chosen to helm the next Bond picture, which will be James Bond 26, the number 26 film in the franchise. And it is none other than Denis Villeneuve, the Canadian-French director who brought us such great films as Arrival, which is one of my favorites. He's doing the Dune series. He's already delivered Dune 2. He's now working on Dune Messiah, the third in the actual franchise. This guy did Sicario, another freaking fantastic film that I love. So I think we've got the right director in place right now, but we still have questions. There are still things to be considered, obviously, right? From the top, who's going to play the next Bond? Who is that going to be? And I want to talk about it really quick in this episode. Welcome to That Guy Talks Movies. Thank you for being here. If you're one of my subscribers, I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Let's just get right into this. So the obvious thing now is where this franchise goes, right? So Amazon purchased it, right? And people are considering like, well, is there going to be issues now that Amazon owns it? How are they going to mess this up? Sort of the way, Disney taking over the Star Wars franchise, all these spin-offs and all these random things taking place. And are they going to sort of water it down or mess it up in some way? Dilute, screw it up. But that may not be the case. So I don't know. I just know that Wilson and Broccoli no longer have creative control. Or they've turned over creative control to Amazon. So we shall see what happens. But getting back to my original question, and the more pressing thing right now is, once again, who is going to play Bond? I explored this topic back when Craig finished with No Time to Die, the last film for him. And I talked about who could be the next Bond. There was speculation about all these different people. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I believe his name is. And they had Andrew Garfield on that list. And they had Tom Holland on that list. A couple of other people. And, Idris Elba. And I explained what my thoughts are on those particular people. This is an updated episode of that, right? Considering now we're talking about the new director, how that's going to work out. And again, we still don't have an actual Bond. So let's talk about that. Now, British GQ did an article on this, and they talked about who these people, who the current crop of potential actors is going to be. So let's take a look at this. So, not to mention, if you look at this article, it starts off, there's a point. It says, which prospective Bond actor feels the most Denis Villeneuve? And I have to talk about this for a second because one of my friends actually brought it up before I even saw this. Never say never, but it's unlikely that we'll see Timothée Chalamet exchange the sand dunes of Arrakis for rainy London, right? So Timothée Chalamet, my friend brought that up. He goes, what would happen if Timothée Chalamet got brought on board? I was like, if Timothée Chalamet gets brought on as Bond, I swear to you, I will refuse to even see the picture. I won't even bother. Not to mention, he is in no way, shape, or form of European origin, British origin. He's not Scottish. He is a New Yorker. Okay. He is from Brooklyn. So that was not going to happen. And I just can't stand Timothée Chalamet for the most part. I shouldn't say I can't stand him, but certainly not playing Bond. So let's take a look at the current crop. And I'm just going to give you my real quick take on what my thoughts are. Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's been at the top of the list for a while now with Idris Elba, right? But I am not convinced by this guy. Now, I've only seen him in like maybe 2 films. So one of the more recent ones, I guess, where he was actually sort of Bond-like, or he was dressed up a lot and he had that sort of, British swag or whatever, was Bullet Train with Brad Pitt. But I'm not convinced by this guy. So I'm not going to spend time talking about him. Patrick Gibson, Dexter, he played young Dexter. Yeah, maybe, possibly. Don't even know. I'm really not sure about that one. Theo James. Okay, so Theo James, which I didn't mention in the first Bond, next Bond video that I did. This guy, since then, has gone to the top of my list because this guy, I watched the series on Netflix, which is based on the Guy Ritchie film, The Gentleman. And he's the star of The Gentleman, and he's definitely got the chops to possibly do it. Could be a little rougher, but right now he's got the chops to play Bond. So he's at the top of my list. So keep that in mind. Henry Cavill, as I mentioned in my previous video, no, I don't know. I like Henry Cavill as an actor. I think he possibly could have done it if he wasn't already, Superman, and he had this. Plus, he's going into Highlander, the remake or whatever of Highlander, which I'll get into in another video. I definitely have to talk about that. But I just don't want to see Henry Cavill do this role. I just don't. And there was a discussion about, it's in one of these articles. I don't know if it's in this article, if it was in Variety, but they talk about how, from a casting perspective, they have to find what's called the Goldilocks actor, which is like the not too famous but just famous enough person to play the role. And I think Henry Cavill is too famous, so he doesn't fit into that Goldilocks on that spectrum. He's not there. So no Henry Cavill for me. Jack Lowden. This guy is also at the top of my list. Now, this guy is in Slow Horses. I remember him from Dunkirk. He was one of the pilots in Dunkirk. He's got the swag. He's got the chops to do it, I believe. He's also another blonde, I guess, or blonde or sort of red, sort of whatever that is. But I think this guy ranks up there with Theo James for me. So right now, those are my top two contenders. Now, James Norton, no. I'm just going to say no because I don't even know James Norton from any of his stuff. Harris Dickinson, another one. I would be lying if I said I had any idea. I mean, he's kind of got the look, right? Which let me say something really quick before I continue. Let me go into this looks thing because you hear me saying this, like, does he look the part? Realistically, with Bond, we all sort of do that. It's natural to, like, we're looking at what the character looks like, how they dress, how posh are they, how they move. If you think about Daniel Craig was, he's been around for a long time as far as being a respectable actor. I mean, going way back to Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks back in, I don't even know what year. Was that late 90s or was that early 2000s? But Daniel Craig was an established actor. Like, nothing is, he didn't do anything as huge as Bond until later on in life, but he was a pretty well-respected actor. Layer Cake is the film, though, where I, myself included, and I'm sure the producers and everything, where you saw him look like a Bond. Like, you got that sense of his swag, the way he moved, the way he dressed. And then there's that one scene, which is sort of a James Bond precursor, like a foreshadowing or, or an homage to Bond, where he grabs a gun from Colmini's gun cabinet, one of the characters in the film, and he takes the gun, he's pointing the gun, he looks like a Bond character. So it's looks. It's, can we believe this person could play Bond on screen, right? So I don't want to discount the fact that the person has to have a certain amount of rough and tumble to them. They have to have a certain amount of action, ability to pull off action, or to deliver the lines and to actually be a good actor, believable, right? Those things are definitely critical to the character. However, we all sort of gravitate towards, what does the person look like? It's kind of the first thing that happens. Even with Daniel Craig, when the announcement was made that he was cast, there was a whole bit of controversy because he was blonde. And it was like a big deal that he was blonde. Again, that's just a physical characteristic, but we judged him based on that. I shouldn't say I judged him, but a lot of people did. And he totally proved us wrong on that. So when I'm looking at these guys and I'm saying, yeah, he doesn't even look the part, just keep that in mind. So this guy, Harris Dickinson's got a pretty, it looks like he could pull the role off. He also looks pretty tall too, right? So let me continue. Callum Turner, I've seen him, but again, not 100%, and I don't think he's got the look. I just don't think. Josh O'Connor, don't know his work. Sorry, don't think he's got the look either. Okay, so Reggae John Page, I've talked about him previously. He's got the look. He's got the swag. He can definitely deliver it. I remember this guy from, Bridgerton. I've seen a couple episodes of that, and this guy definitely has. He's also in Dungeons and Dragons. He definitely has that poshness to play the role. Problem is, I think he's a little too pretty, right? There's a certain pretty boy quality to him, and perhaps that will keep him from the role. Also, as I've stated, and as controversial as this might sound, coming from a black man, I don't want to see a black man take on the role of James Bond. It is not a role for a black man to play. I'm sorry, and that's my thoughts on Idris Elba. So just save the drama or save the suspense. When we get to Idris Elba, I'm going to say the same thing. And I can get into that another time, or if you don't know my full take on it, go watch the other video where I did when I talked about Bond. So that's my thoughts on Reggae. I think he'd be at the top of the list. And I think Idris Elba would be the greatest, but only, again, the only issue there is that I don't think Bond should be played as a black character. It's a white character, so let's just keep it that way. Paul Mescal, that's the guy from Gladiator 2, so I'm kind of tainted on that guy just because I hated that movie. But I don't think he's got the look, and I also don't think he has the on-screen presence from what I've seen him in. Jonathan Bailey, Bridgerton. I don't know enough about him to say one way or the other. Tom Holland, instant no, not even close. I don't want to get into it. I talked about it on my other video. Pierce Brosnan. So they're basically saying with Amazon taking full creative control, the Bond franchise, is the door now open to bring Brosnan back? In other words, maybe an older, maybe head of MI6 or something like that. That might be interesting, but I would love Pierce Brosnan to come back. I still find him to be an incredible on-screen presence, and he's got what it takes to be that dude, but probably in a different capacity. Daniel Kaluuya, absolutely not. Love him as an actor, but again, don't want to see a black Bond, and you know my reasons for that. And he definitely doesn't have the look. He just does not have it. Great actor though. Joe Alwyn, don't know enough about him, so I'd be lying. Joseph Quinn, don't know enough about him, so I'd be lying. Yeah, he was in Gladiator 2. Yeah. Okay, so the fact that you were in Gladiator 2 pisses me off. Eddie Redmayne's a great actor, but nope, don't want to see him as Bond. And it's interesting because he probably could. He's got a quirkiness about him that might make him decent, but no, I don't see him. Nicholas Hoult, great actor. Another really good. He's actually a possibility. I wouldn't rule him out. I think he's a little too famous, maybe, so he doesn't fit that Goldilocks thing. And Nosferatu is, I got to get into Nosferatu. We got to talk about that. But and he's currently playing Lex Luthor in the Superman movie, which I don't think is going to work. But we'll see what happens. But maybe. He's a great actor. Luther Ford, lying if I told you I know about this guy, because I don't know about this guy. Finn Bennett, another one I do not know about, so I'd be lying, but I don't think he's got the look, right? Aaron Pierre, absolutely not. No, not going to happen. Fabian Frankel, nope, don't know him, don't care. Matt Smith, actually, this is the guy I remember he played in The Queen, that series, I think it was on Netflix. Really good actor. He's also the guy from, oh my God, what the heck is that movie that I liked him in? Yeah, he's a great actor. I just don't see him as Bond. This guy, Barry Keoghan, I remember him from Dunkirk. It was probably the first movie I saw him in. And then I believe he was in that movie with Colin Farrell and what's his name? What the heck is that movie? But the Irish, are they going to show it here? Do they show here the name of that film? They do not. Anyway, I think he's a great actor. This guy's got a hell of a future ahead of him. I don't know if he could be Bond. I don't think he's got the look for that. Andrew Garfield, absolutely not. Don't want to see it. Just not going to work. And I talked about that in the previous. This guy here is also on my list. So Will Poulter, this guy here, I remember him from, Guardians of the Galaxy, and he did a couple of other things, and I was like, this guy's impressive. He was also on The Bear. He played one of the chefs on The Bear that was training, what's his name, the main character back in the day. But he's got the gravitas. He's got a certain swag about him, and I could see the look, even though he's kind of looked like Rick Astley a little bit. But I think he could pull it off. Taron Egerton, another guy I'm kind of indifferent about. I would say no. I say no. And Dev Patel, absolutely not. No, great actor, but no, don't want to see it. This guy, Jacob Ellery, don't know him. Maybe he's got, no, I don't think so. No. Here's Damson Idris, who I just did a review on F1. If you haven't seen that, you can check that out on the channel. But a great actor. I think he's an up-and-coming great. He's done maybe 6 or 7 films. I do not see him as Bond. It's not going to happen. And again, I don't want to see a black Bond. Henry Golding, absolutely freaking not going to happen. Is this guy? Is he Asian? Where is he from? He proved his action chops and looked good doing it in Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman in 2019. Oh wait, yeah. Is he in the movie? Yeah, I think he was in the movie, but no, I don't think so. Austin Butler, great freaking actor. I think he's way too famous to play the role right now. Looking forward to seeing him playing Chris Shiherlis, basically Val Kilmer's role in Heat. I'm waiting to see him in Heat 2. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, super famous from playing Elvis. Did a great job there, got his Oscar, and really good in Dune 2, I thought. But no for Bond for me. Definitely not. And Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson's also on my list. I said this. If you guys go back and look at my review for Tenet, I thought that when I saw Tenet, I was like, wow, Robert Pattinson. I was never a fan of this guy. I wasn't into the whole Twilight series, whatever it was. I remember him playing the Batman. The Batman had issues for me, and he was okay. But I saw him in Tenet, and I was like, wow, this is the first time I was like, this guy looks like he could be a Bond character. And I did say that. So go back and check that video if you haven't seen it to verify that I said that. This guy, Pop S2, no, not going to happen. No, doesn't look the part, and I don't want to have a black Bond. I'm sorry, I keep saying that. And my boy Idris Elba, who again, I said it in my other video, I think would be the greatest Bond, probably one of the greatest Bonds of all time. If anyone had to follow Daniel Craig, this guy could do it. And I think that's the end of their list. Oh no, they have Richard Madden here. No, I say no. Tom Hiddleston, low-key, absolutely not. Could do it, could he not? Don't think so. And Riz Ahmed, absolutely not. Again, great actor, but not going to happen. Let me just get into a couple other things here when it comes to Bond and the Bond character, right? So here's some of the difficulty. Where are they going with the franchise, right? Because they killed off Bond in the last film. So are they going back to do stories like a prequel kind of thing where we get Bond that's really young? And he's, because Bond in the book, right, at the height of getting his 00, and the same in Casino Royale, where Craig's first movie, Daniel Craig was actually 38 in that movie, and that's about the age where Bond would get his 00. So Casino Royale was pretty much accurate when it comes to the actual Ian Fleming, the original text, the original book, source material. So what are they doing? Are they going to go back and do the origins of Bond, joining MI6, a British naval officer, and then becoming recruited into MI6, and we're going to get that backstory, in which case the person who plays him needs to be a relatively younger guy and carry off 2 or 3, 4 different films before you get to him getting his 00. How do we do this? Are they going to just do stories of Bond back in the day that haven't been told before with a different actor? You could do that, right? So I don't know what direction they're going. I have no idea. It would be great, since Pierce Brosnan was brought up, it would be great to have someone like Brosnan or Craig. I guess you couldn't really do that. I guess you can't bring them into a Bond flick and have them play a different role, but it would be great if, the only possible way to bring in, going back to my whole thing on a black actor playing Bond, okay? 'Cause if anyone's watching this and you don't know my take on that, and you're just like, why is this guy so against, why is this black man against a black man playing a character, right? My rationale is that the character is not written as black. I don't want to see Shaft played by Brad Pitt. I don't want to see Scarlett Johansson playing Foxy Brown. These are iconic characters in films and have a certain place in culture, and I don't think it's right for that to happen. So if I say that, I need to stay consistent and not all of a sudden say, well, equal rights, we should have a black Bond. No, we shouldn't. The character is not a black character. So as much as Idris Elba could pull it off, I don't want to see it. So that's my take on that whole thing when it comes to those actors. Now, here's the other problem with casting. Daniel Craig did such an incredible job playing Bond. I would say is the greatest Bond of all time, including Sean Connery. He solidified the role in such a way, and he really, he didn't hit a single, he didn't hit a double or triple, he hit a grand slam. As I was talking to someone the other day about this, right? The role, the way he took on the role, the next person stepping into those shoes is really got a lot to fulfill. So they have a lot to do when they cast this next guy. He's got a lot to really own up to, because Bond fanatics, people who are really interested in this and paying attention to this, are really going to be expecting a lot, considering what Craig left behind. So I say all that. We have a lot to figure out. Where are they going to, in the timeline, they're going to do this 26 movie? We have no details yet about storyline. We know nothing. So where are they starting? The actor that comes into this role needs to be able to pull off something for, 2, 3, 4 movies, you figure, right? Hopefully. So they can't get a guy that's too old, which is why my number one guy, Michael Fassbender, is not going to work. So I don't know what they do. I don't know what they do here. Would be interesting. Going back to Idris Elba, what I would like to see is if they have a spin-off or they have a different 00, a different character named something else, and you put Idris in that role and becomes more prominent in the series or the franchise and becomes, then fine. I'm all for that, and I think that's the direction they should go. But right now, let's just wait with bated breath to see who the actual next Bond is going to be. I imagine that announcement, since they've got the director, I imagine they're moving full steam ahead, and probably I'm going to guess within the next 30 days, we might know something. So I hope it's not this Aaron Taylor Johnson guy. I really do. I just don't, because he seems to be top of the list. But we'll see. Anyway, that's enough about Bond. Let me know in the comments below what you think about everything I just said when it comes to Bond. Who do you think should play? Who's your top pick for Bond? Your top 3, I should say. Let me know. Let me know what you think about Denis Villeneuve taking over the actual directorial thing here, doing his first Bond flick. Can he handle it? I personally think he can. I didn't talk too much about that, but he clearly has the chops to be able to handle this, and he can handle action. So we'll see what he does here. Like the video on the way out. That makes a huge difference to me. Share it. Talk to your friends about it. Subscribe if you've not yet subscribed. Thank you to the people who are already here, and I'll see you on the next That Guy Talks Movies. Peace.